Problem 5, this is the exercise 11-12 in your text, is really the kind of problem this course is designed to have you learn the tools, the decision-making tools to deal with. Unfortunately, we have to deal with a lot of other stuff to get you here. So we have 3 divisions, cleverly enough labeled A, B, and C. And we're given their sales. We see they are different sizes. We see that they have average operating assets, again, of fairly different sizes, but the difference in the sales is far greater than the difference in the assets and in the difference in the operating income. And then we have a minimum required rate of return of 14% for the smallest division and 16% for the largest division. It says compute the return on investment for each division using the formula stated in terms of margin and turnover. Well, we can do that. Remember, margin is operating income divided by sales, and turnover is sales divided by average operating assets. They give us the numbers, so we don't have to go searching for numbers. We just have to do a calculator dance. The only time this problem could be problematic is if you weren't given the average operating assets. You had to go pick out the average operating assets, and that varies from company to company. Some include some things and others don't. Some include historic value, some include book value. That gets to be a bit troublesome, but that's your finance class. You'll worry about that later. Right now you're learning the basics. They give us the average operating assets, we say thank you, and we move on. Same with sales, same with operating income. We're just taking their numbers and doing the calculator dance. So Division A has operating income of $600,000. And their sales is $12 million. So that gives them a margin of 5%. And their sales are $12 million. Their average operating assets are $3 million. That gives them a turnover of 4. Margin times turnover is return on investment. So Division A is 20% for Division A. Now let's take a look at Division B. Division B has $560,000 in sales. Or I'm sorry, $560,000 in operating income. They have $14 million in sales. Without doing any numbers at all, I got to have a talk with that manager. You're not very efficient if you're $14 million in sales and you're coming up with $560 in net income, okay? So that gives us a margin of 4%. Again, we still have the same sales number, 14 million. Divide that by the average operating assets of 7 million. And again, these numbers are all given to us. Okay, they're all there in the problem. So 2 times 4, that's 8%. Just like it was back in 3rd grade. And Division C, we have $800,000 in operating income. We have $25 million in sales. That gives us a margin of 3.2%. And take our $25 million in sales, divide that by our $5 million in average operating assets, gives us 5. 5 times 3.2 is 16%. So, margin, I'll circle in green. Turnover, I'll circle in orange. And the return on assets, I'll circle in hot pink. So that's the first part of the problem. We computed the first part of the problem. We computed ROI for each division using both margin and turnover. We did that. Now we have to compute the residual income. And for that, remember, that's the minimum percentage of return on operating assets. Okay, so here we have to have 14% of 3 million. Here we need to have 10% of 7 million and 16% of 5 million. That's what we have to come up with. So 14% of 3 million, $420,000. Actual income, 600. They look like they're okay. 10% of 7 million is 700,000. They're okay. And 16% of 500,000, they're okay, but they have no margin of safety. So we have the minimum required return, the residual income, I'm just bringing this number down to make it easy. That company has 0 residual income. This company does not meet its minimum required rate of return. It falls short by 140. I'm hoping that manager's getting his or her resume up to date. And it's only the small division that measured up by residual income. So we had the return on assets, or return on investment, and when we looked at return on investment, they all had positive return on investment. When we looked at residual income, only the smallest division had the minimum required rate of return. Now it says, okay, based on what we now know, we've got these 3 divisions, we're looking at a project, and they tell us that they're looking at an investment opportunity with a 15% rate of return. Do we accept this? Is this good for the company? Yes or no? Well, Division A has a return on investment of 20%, so they're likely to reject it. Because if they accept it, it's going to average down their return. So they're probably not going to do it. Division B has return on investment of 8%, is 15%. They'll probably accept because it'll average up their return. And Division C, it's really 50-50. They probably reject it because it's easier to make policy, to make decisions, and their policy says 16%, and that's exactly what the product is. The division is returning 15%. They want 16%. So they would probably reject it because it's so close, but technically they should accept it. That's one of those decisions where accounting will take you so far, and then you have to make decisions based on other things. If they accept that, do they have the opportunity for increased growth? Do they have the opportunity to keep their workforce working? There are all sorts of other things. When you're that close, you look to other soft facts to make the decision. Okay, if the minimum required return for computing residual income, that's what they require. So this company, remember, was 14%, and this company was 10%, and this company was 16%. And that's just from page 1. They give us that. That's these numbers right here. Now, Division A, based on residual income, absolutely would accept this. So look at the difference. If we look at return on investment, we would reject it. If we looked at residual income, we accept. Division B, in either case, will accept it. And Division C, where here was so close, it was a flip of a coin. If we're going by residual income, we would absolutely accept. So when you're doing these kinds of decision-making problems, get as much information as possible. Consider the hard numbers and the soft facts. What do your customers think? What do your neighbors think? What do your stakeholders, not stockholders, stakeholders think? What do your stockholders think? Because both groups are important. So these decision-making tools will take you so far, but eventually your management skills have to take over and you make the final decision.